The world of modern celebrity and ancient tradition often finds itself locked in a delicate, almost agonizing dance, where every single movement is dissected by millions of eyes around the globe. It is a world where silence speaks louder than words, where a sudden lack of information can spark a wildfire of international speculation, and where the line between public duty and personal branding becomes hopelessly blurred. For years, the public has been treated to a recurring spectacle that seems to repeat itself with the rhythmic predictability of the changing seasons, a constant back and forth that leaves observers both exhausted and utterly fascinated. We find ourselves trapped in a familiar cycle of anticipation, a psychological game played out across the front pages of international newspapers and the endless scrolls of social media feeds. It is a phenomenon that forces us to question the nature of modern fame, the heavy burden of legacy, and the true cost of stepping away from a life of absolute privilege. Every few months, the headlines begin to shift, the whispers grow louder, and the global audience is subtly prepared for yet another dramatic development in a narrative that has gripped the collective imagination for nearly half a decade. Before we dive deeper into the intricate mechanics of this unfolding drama and unravel the layers of strategy behind the latest public maneuvers, take a quick moment to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an update on the stories shaping our cultural landscape. The atmosphere surrounding this ongoing narrative is heavy with a sense of inevitability. Yet it never fails to generate a distinct feeling of chaotic energy whenever a new chapter begins to unfold. We have grown accustomed to a pattern of conflicting reports, a calculated strategy where different media outlets are fed contrasting pieces of information, leaving the public completely disoriented. One week, the narrative suggests a complete withdrawal, a definitive stance that boundaries have been set and that certain individuals have no intention of returning to the spotlight or crossing the ocean. The very next week, the narrative completely flips, suggesting that plans are already well underway, that logistics are being finalized, and that a grand return is on the horizon. This constant shifting of the goalposts creates a peculiar kind of media storm, an artificial whirlwind that keeps names in the headlines and ensures that public interest never truly fades, even when there is little to no substance behind the noise. It is an intricate game of controlling the narrative, a chess match where the players seem hyper-aware of how their actions will be perceived, yet frequently miscalculate the actual level of genuine interest remaining among the general public. This pattern of behavior raises serious questions about the long-term sustainability of maintaining relevance through sheer speculation and media teasing. For years, the public has been offered mere glimpses, carefully curated images that reveal just enough to provoke curiosity, but never enough to provide genuine fulfillment or clarity. This deliberate cultivation of mystery has, over time, transformed what could have been moments of authentic connection into highly scrutinized events fraught with tension and suspicion. When every potential appearance is treated as a monumental breakthrough, the actual event itself often struggles to live up to the immense pressure of the build-up. The global audience, once captivated by the sheer novelty of the situation, is increasingly showing signs of fatigue, recognizing the predictability of announcements that seem designed more to steal the spotlight from other major events than to achieve any real, meaningful progress or reconciliation. It is a fascinating study in modern media dynamics, demonstrating how quickly fascination can turn into cynicism when the public begins to feel like participants in a manufactured game. The contrast between those who quietly go about their structured duties and those who constantly seem to be re-establishing their credentials in the public eye has never been more stark. On one side, there is a traditional apparatus that relies on stability, continuity, and a strict adherence to a long-established script that values duty above personal expression. On the other side, there is a highly individualized pursuit of relevance, an effort to maintain a royal connection while simultaneously claiming a desire for complete independence and privacy. This inherent contradiction is where the true friction lies, as it is virtually impossible to enjoy the absolute freedom of a private citizen, while continually utilizing the prestige and titles of an ancient institution to secure commercial and public leverage. The continuous effort to present an image of living an idyllic, unburdened life often clashes directly with the obvious repetitive need to remind the world of one's status, creating a jarring disconnect that the public is quick to notice and criticize. As we stand on the precipice of yet another potential turning point, the stakes feel remarkably high for everyone involved in this complex dynamic. The upcoming weeks are shaping up to be a significant litmus test, an objective measurement of how much public goodwill remains, and whether the chaotic strategies of the past can ever truly be forgotten or forgiven. The collective memory of the public is long, and the accumulation of past grievances, high-profile interviews, and public revelations has created a deep reservoir of skepticism that will not be easily drained by a few well-timed press releases. The upcoming events will serve as a crucial indicator of whether a path toward genuine stability is even possible, or if we are simply witnessing the prelude to another cycle of predictable drama that will further fracture an already deeply divided perception. The machinery of public relations is working at maximum capacity, but as the dust begins to settle on the latest round of rumors, the true intentions behind these sudden announcements will inevitably be brought to light, revealing whether this is an earnest attempt at reconnection or merely another calculated move in an ongoing struggle for cultural dominance. The core of the matter centers around the highly anticipated and intensely debated arrival of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex in the United Kingdom, specifically tied to the upcoming anniversary and launch events of the Invictus Games. This return, while ostensibly focused on a noble and widely respected charitable cause, has been entirely overshadowed by a labyrinth of logistical contradictions, security demands, and public relations maneuvers that have left royal commentators and the public deeply polarized. The confusion erupted when major media outlets on both sides of the Atlantic began publishing entirely conflicting reports regarding the couple's travel plans, creating an atmosphere of intense speculation and administrative chaos behind the scenes. Just days after prominent American publications closely aligned with the Sussexes definitively stated that the Duchess and the children were not expected to make the journey across the Atlantic, a sudden wave of alternative reports claimed that all systems were go for a full family arrival in July. This whiplash in the media narrative has sparked serious questions about the strategic intentions of the California-based couple, and whether these announcements are being deliberately deployed as a tool to exert leverage over British authorities regarding their ongoing security disputes. To understand the operational tensions surrounding this impending visit, one must look closely at the rigid protocols governing high-profile arrivals in the United Kingdom. Standard administrative procedures dictate that individuals requiring specialized state security protection must provide at least 30 days of advance notice to the relevant British authorities, specifically the Royal and VIP Executive Committee, known widely as RAAVC. If the couple truly anticipated a smooth, fully secure arrival for the launch of the Invictus festivities in early July, the formal notifications detailing the attendance of Meghan and the children would have needed to be submitted weeks in advance, deep within the preceding month. By publicizing a potential family arrival while simultaneously locked in a bitter legal and administrative battle over the downgrading of their tax-funded security detail, the Sussexes appear to be playing a high-stakes game of chicken with the Home Office. The underlying message seems to be an ultimatum wrapped in a public relations campaign. Either the requested level of armed state protection is granted, or the British public and the royal family will be deprived of seeing the young grandchildren, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. This calculated ambiguity leaves everyone in a state of perpetual uncertainty, transforming what should be a straightforward, charitable engagement into a complex geopolitical security standoff. Furthermore, the timing of these sudden announcements has raised eyebrows across the media landscape, occurring precisely during a period when the British royal family was fully immersed in some of its most traditional and highly visible public events, including royal ascot and major ceremonial gatherings. Historically, the Sussexes have faced persistent criticism for what many perceive as a distinct pattern of stealing the spotlight or dropping major personal announcements to coincide with significant milestones of the working royals. As the British public rallied around the Prince and Princess of Wales during a summer filled with high-profile appearances, the sudden re-emergence of the Sussex narrative felt to many observers like a horribly predictable tactical maneuver. The contrast between the quietly enduring public service of the working royal family and the dramatic, media-heavy approach of the self-exiled Duke and Duchess has heightened the palpable tension. It forces a critical examination of who exactly is sanctioning these leaks and announcements. If they are originating from the Montecito communications team, it indicates a continued desire to aggressively control the global narrative and maintain an artificial sense of royal parity. Despite having abandoned their official duties years ago, this constant oscillation between demanding absolute privacy and engineering massive publicity campaigns has created a growing sense of fatigue among the global audience. Observers are increasingly pointing out that the couple's cultural reach and influence are no longer what they once were during the initial explosive period of their departure from the United Kingdom. Recent attempts to capture public attention, from extensive social media photo drops to high-profile appearances at American sporting events like NBA games, have met with an increasingly indifferent response from a public that has largely moved on. Even Prince Harry's inclusion in major influential sports figure lists has been greeted with a collective shrug by mainstream commentators, who openly question the tangible impact or influence of a man who appears to be living a highly protected, almost insular lifestyle in a luxury villa in Montecito while claiming to be on a freedom flight. This declining cultural capital has led some media experts to suggest that the sudden weaponization of the grandchildren's potential return to the UK is born out of an underlying sense of desperation, a necessary recourse to their most potent asset, their royal connection. To re-establish their flagging credentials as globally significant figures, the prospect of the Duchess of Sussex actually stepping onto British soil and engaging in public-facing events introduces an entirely new layer of dramatis. See tension to the upcoming visit. For Meghan, returning to a country where public sentiment has turned sharply against her represents a significant personal and professional risk, one that she will likely approach with immense trepidation and through gritted teeth. There is a very real, tangible fear that any public appearance beyond the strictly controlled insular environment of the Invictus Games venue could result in a highly visible and embarrassing public backlash, including the distinct possibility of being booed by the crowds. This potential hostility creates a sharp dilemma. To remain entirely hidden within a secure compound would invite criticisms of being aloof and completely disconnected from the British public, while stepping out into the open risks creating an undeniable visual confirmation of their deep unpopularity in Harry's homeland. This upcoming trip is therefore being viewed as an ultimate litmus test for the couple, a stark and unvarnished measurement of their actual standing in the United Kingdom after years of public recriminations, tell-all books, and highly critical streaming documentaries. Behind the public maneuvering lies a deeply sensitive family dynamic that continues to be strained by these endless media strategies. The absolute insistence on absolute privacy regarding the children, juxtaposed with the public teasing of their arrival, strikes many as an inherently contradictory and bizarre approach to family life. Royal experts emphasize that if the primary goal of the visit were truly an intimate, private reconciliation between King Charles and his youngest grandchildren, the entire matter would have been handled with the utmost discretion, far away from the prying eyes of the international press. Instead, the public is treated to a constant stream of updates regarding whether or not the king will finally get to spend quality time with Archie and Lilibet, transforming a deeply human, grandfatherly desire into a highly politicized bargaining chip. The consensus among those who understand the inner workings of the institution is clear. For any semblance of long-term trust to be rebuilt between the Sussexes and the rest of the royal family, the couple must remain entirely silent about the details of their visit. Any subsequent leaking of private conversations or complaints upon their return to America will permanently shatter any remaining hope of reconciliation, cementing a permanent state of alienation that will continue to cast a long, dark shadow over the House of Windsor. The broader implications of this ongoing royal saga extend far beyond the immediate logistical headaches of a single summer visit, touching upon the fundamental integrity and future authority of the British monarchy itself. As the global public looks on, the underlying motivations of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are being subjected to an unprecedented level of critical analysis, revealing a profound and seemingly permanent disconnect between their self-proclaimed ideals and the reality of their actions. The core reality that has slowly begun to dawn on observers, and perhaps even on the Duke of Sussex himself, is the sheer magnitude of what was sacrificed in exchange for the fleeting allure of commercial independence in California. The initial narrative of a triumphant, unburdened exodus to a sun-drenched estate in Montecito has, over the course of several turbulent years, been systematically dismantled by a succession of public relations missteps, commercial cancellations, and a palpable decline in global cultural significance. The realization that they can no longer command the world stage purely on the strength of their personal brands, without the institutional gravity of the crown, has forced a desperate, somewhat clumsy pivot back toward the very family they so publicly and aggressively condemned. To fully understand why this moment matters so deeply, one must look at the biographical trajectory of Prince Harry, a man whose entire life has been defined by the rigid constraints of his birth, the profound tragedy of his youth, and an enduring struggle to find a definitive role within a system based entirely on hierarchy. For decades, Harry was one of the most genuinely beloved figures in the United Kingdom, celebrated for his military service, his charismatic, easygoing public demeanor, and his ability to connect with ordinary people in a way that mirrored his late mother, Diana, Princess of Wales. His dedication to charitable endeavors, most notably the creation of the Invictus Games in 2014, demonstrated a genuine capacity to channel his immense privilege into meaningful global impact, providing wounded, injured, and sick servicemen and women with a powerful platform for recovery and camaraderie. However, the narrative took a sharp and permanent turn following his marriage to Meghan Markle, a self-made American actress with her own well-established ideas about public relations, personal branding, and individual autonomy. The collision between an ancient, duty-bound British institution and a modern, hyper-individualistic approach to celebrity created an explosive dynamic that ultimately led to the historic rupture of their departure from official duties. The subsequent years saw a barrage of media output from the Sussexes that many viewed as an overt betrayal of family trust and institutio dignity. From the highly publicized, emotionally charged television interviews to a multi-part streaming documentary series, and, most destructively, the publication of Harry's raw and deeply personal memoir, the couple chose to systematically air decades of private grievances, internal family disputes, and highly sensitive institutional secrets to a global audience for substantial financial gain. This sustained campaign of public recrimination did not achieve the uncritical adoration they may have anticipated. Instead, it established a pattern of behavior that has made any official reconciliation extraordinarily dangerous for the current monarch, King Charles. The king, while naturally possessing the deep, enduring love of a human being and a father for his youngest son and his grandchildren, must prioritize the stability, credibility, and long-term survival of the crown above his personal emotional desires. The consensus among constitutional experts and palace officials is unyielding. The royal family cannot, under any circumstances, allow the Sussexes to establish a precedent of a half-in, half-out relationship, where they are permitted to enjoy the immense privileges and prestigious titles of royalty while remaining entirely free from its associated duties and strict standards of public accountability. Furthermore, the palace must constantly guard against the significant reputational risks that come with the couple's unpredictable business ventures, commercial endorsements, and personal associations. Over the past few years, the Sussexes have demonstrated what many critics describe as a distinct lack of thorough due diligence when it comes to the brands, organizations, and individuals they align themselves with on the global stage. In an era where every single association is instantly scrutinized by a hyper-connected public, any official or even implied connection between the working monarchy and the commercial activities of the Sussexes could have catastrophic consequences for the institutional credibility of the crown. If the Duke and Duchess are seen interacting with politically controversial figures, compromised business entities, or individuals with highly questionable backgrounds, the palace would be forced into a perpetual cycle of damage control, issuing defensive responses and explanations that would inevitably tarnish the political neutrality and moral authority of the sovereign. It is this fundamental risk to the integrity of the state that dictates the unyielding stance of the British authorities. An inch given to the couple could jeopardize the carefully maintained boundaries of the entire institution as the dates for the proposed visit approach. The true test will not merely be whether the Duchess of Sussex manages to avoid public hostility or whether the king secures a private moment with his grandchildren, but whether the Sussexes have truly learned the harsh lessons of their self-imposed exile. The sudden realization that their freedom flight did not yield the boundless, universally respected influence they sought has placed them at a critical crossroads. If Prince Harry is to ever genuinely regroup and rebuild a meaningful relationship with his homeland and his family, it will require a complete abandonment of the chaotic public relations strategies that have defined his recent years. The global audience has grown weary of the predictable cycles of media teasing, conflicting announcements, and manufactured drama. The ultimate narrative arc of this modern tragedy rests entirely on whether the couple can finally find the humility to step away from the cameras, respect the boundaries of an institution that has survived for over a millennium, and understand that true legacy is built through silent, dedicated service rather than the loud, fleeting whispers of a global media apparatus.